Hey, John, thanks for coming. Another week of Markman on the Markets. This week we have the in Hawaii edition. I'm hoping those the beautiful ocean outside your door gave you some clear thoughts on the market. How are you doing?
Doing great, thanks. It is great to be back in Maui. My wife and I come here, a couple times a year to rest and recharge and play a lot of golf and do a lot of running. It's a beautiful place to go if you've never been here.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, you take me to Maui a bunch of times, but for all of our listeners and viewers, go visit it. Kanapali. That's the best. You can even see it on John's shirt there.
Actually, I like the Kapalua Ridge area up near Kapalua Golf Courses. That's where we stay. It's just incredibly beautiful. It's not very crowded, and they've got great golf.
Oh, that's great. Well, John, that is awesome. Let's talk about the market. We had a pretty interesting week last week. I have some things I want to talk about, but I think that you started off. What was your impressions of of the market last week?
I think the main thing has to be that the banks did not disappoint. The big banks were expected to show their earnings last week, and they did. And they weren't nearly as bad as expectations. I mean, coming out of the debacle with Silicon Valley Bank, there was a fear that bank lending would just shut down and that these big banks would not be able to show a profit. But JP Morgan showed them wrong and shot up 6.5% when after their earnings were announced. And it turns out that it was more important that they be able to that take advantage of rising rates to improve their profit margins than it was to worry about whether they were going to collapse like Silicon Valley Bank did. And so quite a number of the big banks did fantastic last week. And I think they're starting off this week strong as well. So that kind of knocks one of the big underpinnings of Bear's argument out of contention.
Oh,
And I
wow.
think that, yeah.
And that has something to do with. I know we talked about this a little bit offline, but and was that the underpinning argument of the bears for why we might be headed into a recession, or does that kind of pull the word recession out of the bear's mouth, or what does that mean?
Well, there's an argument. There's three main arguments out there. One is that we had a recession last year and that it's over. Another belief is that we're in the middle of a recession and it won't be over for another 3 to 6 months. And there's another belief that the recession hasn't actually arrived yet and will be here in the second quarter, I mean in the third quarter and fourth quarter. So I mean, it turns out that the data that I like to use and the data that Bloomberg Intelligence likes to use shows that the recession actually did come last year and probably ended as recently as December of last year, and that right now we're in the beginning of a new bull market. That seems impossible. It sounds crazy, right? But you look at the actual stock market rather than what people believe, and stocks are doing fine. They're up quite a bit more than you'd see if it was really a pending recession.
Oh,
So
wow.
people who bet with their money rather than just talk about it through analytics reports are showing that there's a belief that the recession is behind us, inflation is behind us, and we may have clear sailing through the rest of the year. I know that sounds crazy, but that's the contrarian point of view that is actually edging more into the mainstream.
I mean, I would love to hear that. It would be nice to have already experienced a recession without even knowing it.
Well, the concept of a recession is very arcane, and it's not many people really understand what a recession is. A recession is the commonplace way to describe it is 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth or contraction. But the recession is not declared all by itself. There's a panel of economics experts that has to convene to decide whether a recession has started and whether one has finished. And if you remember back in 2020, following the COVID crisis,
Yeah.
we did have a recession in April of 2020, and it was over by the end of, basically by May, like a 2 month recession.
Oh, okay.
And so the question is, did we just have another one of those quickie recessions? The evidence, which is shown by people actually using their money in the stock market rather than just talking about stuff, shows that there is the bet right now is that the recession happened and that we are now on the road to recovery. And one of the reasons you think that we're on the road to recovery is because the stocks that should be going down if we were really in a recession are actually going up. Stocks. If you were really having a recession, you see the bank stocks collapse. You see that John Deere's and Caterpillar machinery makers collapse. You see some industrials like Eaton collapse, but none of that is happening. They are all holding firm. And in contrast, some of the stocks that are doing well this year, I'm talking about the S&P 500, stocks in the S&P 500, are what you would consider to be more speculative, and therefore not the kind of things that professionals would be buying. The number one stock of this year, I would say, is NVIDIA, NVDA, which is emerging as investors' top bet in the artificial intelligence space. It's a chip maker, but it's a chip maker by definition. But the CEO of the company made a huge bet on AI software about 10 years ago, and he's paying off now as probably the number one pick on Wall Street to have a lot of success with the AI development,
that's awesome.
AI evolution. Now, look at some other stocks that are going up this year. Align, which is a company that makes dental implants to help people with their crooked teeth. It's doing extremely well this year. It's up 64%. You've got WebMD. You remember them?
Yeah, of course.
They're up 53% this year. Remember Tesla? Oh, of course you do. That's up 51% this year. Salesforce.com, which is another enterprise software maker that only does well when the economy does well. It's up 48% this year. So, and then GE, which is, if you're going to pick one stock out of all of the big caps in America to be up this year, I think that essentially zero people would choose GE.
And is this GE by itself or GE Healthcare?
This is GE Healthcare, which is their spinoff. That's a good question. It was a spinoff at the beginning of the year. They've done well, but GE, the big stock, is the one I'm talking about.
Oh wow, okay. And then I know Novo Nordisk has been up there as well, but they not made as big gains as these other stocks.
Yeah, Novo Nordisk has done a fantastic job this year, and as you know, they're getting credit for being the genius behind Ozempic, which is Hollywood's favorite way of losing weight without actually doing anything difficult.
Well, it's people who don't understand how calorie restrictive eating does catch up with you when you stop taking Ozempic. It's their favorite way of losing weight, yes. But anyways.
Well, you and your wife know more about how to be successful in a weight training program and to a good dietary regimen. So, you guys, you actually know what it takes.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, people want to go the easy route. The easy route is to take Ozempic, which is a really cool drug made essentially for obesity. It suppresses people's desire to eat.
Yeah. So they were doing well, but not as well as like a Tesla or a NVIDIA.
Right.
All right. I have another question for you here. So I think one of the things that's going to be harder to tell, but I think is going to be more important in terms of picking winners this year is what companies not necessarily are making the chips for AI or making AIs. What companies are utilizing AI as well? Obviously, we may not know what companies are doing this, but do you have any hint or any ideas what companies have successfully implemented AI into their workflow?
It's a really good question, and that is something that all companies will profess in their earnings calls. They'll all talk about AI as if they invented it, but the reality is only a few are actually savvy enough to figure out what to do with it and how to use it effectively.
Yeah,
I think companies like Schlumberger, SLB, which is a big oil field services company, has been using AI to find oil in the ground for the last 10 years, and they're doing better than ever now that they're harnessing more effectively in their
oh wow! So they're using it. They're using that sound technology that basically puts echolocation through the ground. They're able to map the subsurface materials, and then they're using AI to basically go through those images or sounds and more accurately drill.
AI, if you think about it, AI is really just the science of figuring out what large data sets, what information you can glean from large data sets.
Yeah.
And if you talk about one great big data set, it's like where is oil, where is gas?
Yeah.
And obviously the energy companies can sample all kinds of information about oil and gas, and then feed it into their AI engine to help them find or iterate better and better places to find oil and gas and to utilize it more effectively.
That makes sense.
I think another company has done a great job with it is Home Depot. HD. They've been out in front of almost every consumer trend for the past 15 years. They have really a brilliant set of managers who have determined that AI was going to help them in understanding how to keep the right inventory for all those big items that they use, and have them available for people on immediate use when they need it, rather than just storing it in a big warehouse that costs a lot of money.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I was actually at Home Depot over the weekend, and I was kind of amazed at how easy I was able to find everything I was looking for.
Yeah, I mean, Home Depot there's always been a rap that there's not enough people in Home Depot that help customers with finding the single little screw that they need.
Yeah.
But hey, no one expected it to happen overnight. It's happening slowly. It's one of those things that happens slowly and then fast. And I think we're on the verge of the fast part.
What's funny with Home Depot is that the employees don't actually know where things are anymore. They just have a Home Depot app, which is the same app I would use, and then they just type in the item and it tells them the aisle and the shelf space. So instead of like having knowledgeable people, they just created a tool that gives them the knowledge when they need it.
Yeah, and I think about all the AI, all the information they can feed into their AI engine to understand all that stuff, all the inventory, all the little screws, all the little placements. And if the screw that you need is 1,000 miles away, that you have a way of understanding that and to get it to you the next day. It's really quite amazing what they've been able to do by harnessing the early stages of this AI revolution.
That's really cool. Well, I think we should make it a recurring theme to bring up the companies that are not just creating AI, but are using it better than others. Because I personally believe right now you either got to adapt or you will die, because someone else will use AI before you do.
Well, you look at, Tesla has been the baby of the AI revolution, and there's no way that you could have created, Elon Musk and all of his engineers could have created Tesla without being able to feed in billions and billions and billions of data points, car movements and traffic movements into their AI algorithms to determine how to both save lives as well as make driving a much more pleasurable, hands-off, worry-free experience.
Yeah, this was true as of summer last year. So it still should be relatively true, but as of summer last year, they had the 7th largest supercomputer, was Tesla's own supercomputer, which I don't think it's talked about enough.
I mean, you've essentially got a supercomputer on your hand right now compared to what the technology that we had, say, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Your smartphone is an unbelievable user and augmenter of data that's fed into AI engines. Tesla is going to be one of the big winners over time. And the other big winner of including AI with the manufacturing process is the public. Everyone thinks that they're the best driver in the world, and the reality is they're not. But when the AI technology is fully integrated into the world's traffic grid as well as into individual cars will have knowledge about where other cars are on the highway and avoid them themselves, rather than depending on a distracted human being to make those calls.
Yeah, it makes sense. Well, John, thanks again for joining us on another week of Markmans on the Market. Let the viewers know, where are you going to be playing golf next?
I'll be playing in about an hour and a half on the Royal course of Kaanapali, and then tomorrow I'm going to play at one of my favorite golf courses in the world. It's called King Kamehameha Golf Course in Maui, and it's kind of interesting because it's a private course, absolutely gorgeous. But if you call a couple weeks ahead, they take 20 non-members a day on the course, and so I've done that every year for the last few years and had a fantastic experience. Way up there on the hill, it actually is overlooking the Maui airport.
Oh, that's super cool. And is that the logo on your shirt?
Actually, yes, it is. King Kamehameha.
Oh, that's cool. Well, John, thanks for that. Everyone listening, like, subscribe, follow us on this channel. Make sure you get the latest updates to make sure you know where you want to golf next. Anyways, thanks, John. We'll talk soon. Have fun golfing.
Thanks. Take care. Bye, everybody.
See you.